Hello friends, so let's have a look at SQL Server tutorial. So here I'm going to open the SQL Server Management Studio. I put in my server name, my authentication, that is SQL Server authentication. I might also choose Windows authentication. So in this case I'm choosing SQL Server authentication. My login is SA, that stands for System Administrator, and my respective password. And here I am selecting the option to remember password. And let me connect to SQL Server. Well, so after connecting to SQL Server, we are here in Management Studio. Alright, now this is a tool wherein we can create our database, we can insert records, we can have a look at those records, and there are many other operations which we would eventually look at it. So first let me go and create a new database. Alright, so the quick thing, what is a database? So database is something which has a data, which is based on data. Now that's a pretty simple definition. Database is something which has information. Okay, so now you might think, what is difference between data and information? Data is something in a raw format. Okay, it is not processed or not finished, whereas information is a processed data. Okay, so give you a typical example, we might have some data. Okay, but then when that data is used for some statistics, then we say, okay, that is an information which can be used for some respective purpose. So let me create a database. I click on databases, I right click over there, and then I click on new database option. So that would give me a dialog box known as new database, wherein I would key in the database name. So let me put this database name as e-commerce. Okay, so after taking a while, it would create a database for me, and here you can see the e-commerce database. Okay, so as I expand that, I have various options. We will go through them later. So let me expand the tables. Now what is a table, you might think? Well, table is something which we create, and in that we might have respective columns. And in a table we have columns and records. Now what columns we would have? Now since this is an e-commerce database, we would create a table known as customer. Okay, so I would right click on the table option, create a new table, and I would put the first column. The first column name would be ID, and I would select a data type for that. Now column name is something which I can put whatever I wish, and data type, I can select a respective data type. So there are lots of data type available out here. So first I would go with nvarchar. Now what is nvarchar? Nvarchar is like variable character, wherein we can store certain characters, and we can define a limit for that. So out here I actually need a number. So I would go and select an integer. Okay, and what I want is that integer should keep on auto incrementing. So I would just move this window a little bit up, then I would go and find an identity specification. On is identity, I would double click, so it would change from no to yes. And then if you can see out here, identity increment is 1. So it would go and add 1 to the original value. So as you might have already guessed, for the first time the value would be 1, and the second time would be 2, and so on. So now let's go and create another column. So I would give that column name as name. So this is like customer name. Okay, and then I would select a data type, and that would be my nvarchar, as said earlier. Okay, since I want to store characters into this field. Okay, whereas in ID we would be storing only integers. Make sense? Okay. So now I will have another column known as city, and again I would go for varchar. Again I want to store characters into this city. Alright, and then I'll create another column known as amount. Now here I would select a number, numeric, okay, because I want to, it's quite obvious that we would be storing some number in this amount. Now numeric field is a field, or rather a type, wherein we can have various calculations. Okay, so now let me save this table and let me name it as customer. I hit on OK and the table is created for me. Okay, so I'll just close this window and I'll open a new query window. Well, so in the previous thing, what I did is after creating the table, I actually closed this window and then I had opened the new query window. So actually we don't need that at this moment. We'll look at it later. So let me close this query window again and let me go back to my Object Explorer, and if at all my tree is collapsed, so I would just expand it again. I would click on my e-commerce database, I would expand the tree, and now what I want to do after creating the table, I would like to have some records into that. I mean, I need to insert some records into that. Only then I would have some records, or rather the finished data, right? So what I would do is I would right click my customer table, and then I would select the option edit top 200 rows. So it's just a name for editing. Okay, uh, at the moment there are no records. So when we go to here, the ID column, you can look at here, it says cell is read only. So if you try to put in some data, it won't allow us to do so, because it, you remember we had selected identity, and that is like auto incrementing number by its own, so SQL would take care of it. So what I would do is I would go to the name column and I would key in some name. So let's say my customer is Bill, and city is maybe New York, and let's say amount is 5,000. Okay, and then I would create more records. Now you can see in the first record the ID is auto generated, that is 1. Okay, and that is absolutely taken care by the SQL server. We did not enter anything out here. What we did is only while defining this, we specified it as an identity. Cool. Okay, so now let me add another record. Let me say customer name is Tom, and maybe again he's also from New York, and some amount is like 6,000. Let me add another record saying Raj, and he is from Mumbai, and some amount is like 2,000. Let me add another record saying Noor, it's my name. Okay, everybody likes their own name, so even I'm from Mumbai, and let me put some amount out here. Cool. So as you see, it is still in editing mode, right? So let me move my cursor so that record is completed. Okay. And now since the arrow is here, it means it is pointing to this record. Okay. Now out here, I can change whatever amount I want, or even I can change the city name for that matter. Even if I feel the name is not correct, I can change that. Let me change it to Rajesh. Okay, so here the change is reflected right away. Okay, so let me close this window for this moment. Well, so in the previous one, we created a customer table. Okay, we had inserted some records, and now what we want to do is actually we want to view the records. But now we don't want to, right click this and go to the edit option, because at the moment we don't actually want to edit any records or insert any records. We just want to have a view. We just want to have look at it. So what we can do is we can go to the new query window. I click on the new query, okay, and here I should without fail select my appropriate database. There would be many databases. So out here I select my database, which is e-commerce, okay, in this case. And as I want to see the data or all the data from the customer table, so I would key in the query. Now, whatever we issue in this window, it's nothing but a query. We do a query and we get a result out of it. So in order to get the data or to fetch the data, so I would key in the query known as select, and then since I need all the columns, so I need to key in star and from, and then I would mention my table name, so that is customer. You can see an IntelliSense window out here which would actually give me the all my table names. So out here, from here I can select the customer. Once I complete my query, what I can do is I can click on execute, or maybe alternatively I can press F5. So I'll just hit on execute, and out here in the below window you can see all the records appear from the customer table with all the columns, as in we have mentioned star, so we get ID, name, city, and amount. Okay, now let's imagine that we just wanted to view only the name column from the customer. So what we can do is we can just fetch only the name. So once again I would say select, and then I would say the column name. So I need name, right? And then I would say from the table name. So again that is nothing but customer. After keying in the query, I would select this query and then I would hit execute. So that would give me only names. Okay. Now if I want to see more columns, then what I can do is I can say select. Maybe I want to view name and amount. So I would say name, comma, amount. So comma is the separator. After specifying a column name, I would say a comma and then another column name, and then I would say from and my table name, that is customer in this case. So after keying in the query, again I select that query and I say execute. So here we go, we get name as well as the amount. Now in this customer table, maybe we only want to see one particular record. Till this moment we are able to see all the records. Now I just want to view record of only Tom. Okay, so what I can do, since I need all the columns, so I would say select star from customer, and since I want to view only record for Tom, so I would add in a condition. Now in SQL Server, to specify a condition, what we do is we mention the where clause or the where statement, and then what I want to view the record for the Tom, so I would say where name is equal to, and that is Tom. Since Tom is a character, I would have to enclose it in single quotes. So I put in a single quote over here, I key in the value, that is whatever I needed, so that is Tom in this case, I close the quotation mark, and then I select that query and I hit on execute. So I would get only the record for the Tom as expected. So I get ID, name, city, amount for Tom.